Welcome to the first episode of 5157 Sports. I'm your co-host Phillip Apking alongside Ian McDonnell. Today, our topics will be NBA in the bubble, our NFL predictions, Zion's health, and then a segment we're running called Today's Questions for Tomorrow. So, let's just jump straight into it with the bubble. So, we know the Lakers have locked up the number one seed in the West. The Bucks are working to get there. Today's matchups, we have the Pelicans versus Kings, Heat Bucks, which that's a great matchup because Heat have been able to stop the Bucks, and that's a rough matchup for the Bucks. Pacers Suns having great performances against like the Clippers, and Pacers are rolling too, so that'd be good. Clippers Mavs, some of the best competitors in the West. Blazers Nuggets, another just great matchup between some powerhouse teams out there in the West. Lakers Rockets. Lakers are without LeBron, so that'll be a little bit of a struggle, but it'll be a good day for the NBA today. So, bubble teams. So we figured we'd list off our dark horses for the championship. So for me, one of my dark horse teams that I'm really liking is Portland. Portland's coming off that game against Boston where they lost, but they were able to overcome a 24-point deficit, which was amazing. Damian Lillard's just on fire, working his team up to the 8 seed. And I think that the Blazers would give some real tough matchups for the Lakers, especially now that the Lakers are missing Avery Bradley. Rondo's out for a little while. So I think Dame and CJ McCollum will be able to, push the series to 6. I'm not saying they win, but it'd be a good series. What about you, Ian?
Well, as an Indiana guy, now that I'm going to be there, I have to give a little love to my Pacers. Even in the last 10 games, the Pacers are 8-2 on a 3-game win streak. Going into tonight playing the Suns, if they can stop Devin Booker or even slow him down a little bit, I don't see how they don't destroy that game. And they have a little bit of a tough schedule coming up on them, but I still see the Pacers coming up, and I think they could shock people. Even though Oladipo hasn't been giving the numbers that he's been expected, they've had other guys step up and kind of take the lead and take over to the point that Indiana isn't really they don't really have that big superstar. They're not the huge team, but those guys mesh and they play good ball together. There's not any kind of focus on threes, any kind of focus on dunks like a team like the Bucks. But I like the Pacers, but we'll see how they do against teams like the Heat that are just 3-point raining bombs, and we'll see how they do against teams like the Lakers coming up.
I'm just not sure if Warren can keep up that hot streak he's been on. He's been averaging just absurd numbers in the bubble, and although he's balling out and he's looking great, I'm just not sure if he can keep up against the great competition. The Suns might not have anyone that can guard him, but right now he'd be playing Miami in a first-round matchup, which would be tough with Jimmy guarding him, because Jimmy's going to give him a tough time.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see. That 4-5 matchup could be something great. That could go 7. So, yeah. And then to discuss on the contenders, the Bucks, I like the Bucks, but I'm not too sure if Middleton can rise up to the challenge of being a top 2 in this league. His games have been good, but his consistency is really lacking in that department. And if you're not consistent too on a championship team, then you don't really have a championship team. Giannis can only carry you guys so far before you get stopped. So, yeah.
And honestly, I don't even like the Lakers that much anymore. Losing the defensive point guard, I don't see how they stop teams like the Heat that have Duncan Robinson out there shooting ridiculous percentages from threes. And even in their recent game against the Celtics, the Heat locked it down at the end.
They did.
With guys like Bam down there snagging the few rebounds of a couple misses here and there. But their outside perimeter guys have been lighting it up to points that I don't think that LA is going to be able to defend stuff like that. And especially with LeBron taking a couple games off, I don't see him being able to get in the shootout. I think they're going to have to try to keep it with big guys down low and try to kind of beat up guys like Bam, but
it'll be rough, especially with Anthony Davis not really coming through in the fourth quarter situations like you want him to. his struggles they're definitely real, and like you were saying, the lack of Rondo and Bradley will really give LA a tough time against those Trailblazers, the Rockets. I mean, how are they supposed to guard a Harden, McCollum, a Dame? I just don't think it's possible for them. They might be able to slow them down a little bit, but they won't be able to totally stop them. So they're really going to have to put a lot of weight on LeBron, and they're going to have to hope that Kuzma can bounce back. But Kuzma's been having just an atrocious season. With his lackluster performances, his numbers have seriously dropped off since that amazing rookie season that he had. I'm not sure if the Lakers are all there. And the thing with the Clippers is, the other team in LA, is although they've been resting their guys, Kawhi, been resting, Paul George, I think if once they all come together and put in that playoff mode like Kawhi did last year, I just think top to bottom, the Clippers have a better roster than everybody else in the West. Kawhi's able to lock down anyone he wants. All 5 positions, Kawhi can do it. So can Paul George for the most part. You got Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams, so that's a good squad. And then the other squad, my squad, Celtics, a little bit rocky. These past couple games have been rough, but Kemba's been sitting. He's been resting up on his knee injury he had before the bubble. But if they can get that together with Tatum, Brown, Hayward, Kemba, and then maybe throwing a little Daniel Tice, throwing a little bit Marcus Smart's energy, I think the Celtics could maybe do something. It's rough for them against the Bucks. I mean, when they played the Bucks last time, Tatum shot his shooting. I think he shot like 11% from the field. He had 5-6 points. It was just terrible. But if Tatum can play like he played the game after that against Portland, then I think that they can seriously do some damage in the East. It's that hope for me as a Celtics fan that Miami can knock off the Bucks in the second round, because that'd be super, super clutch for the Celtics.
Yeah, we really got to see how the Celtics do against the big teams,
Toronto.
Even against the Bucks, they struggled inside because of the Bucks' just dominance in size.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Daniel Tice can only do so much against guys like AD, guys like Giannis, and even against Lopez. It seemed like Lopez was dominating him the whole night, especially on the boards. Because usually Daniel Tice and even Enes Kanter, they're good rebounding guys, but
not as physical and not as big as the Bucks' better rebounders. The guy that they really need to step up is Robert Williams. Robert Williams had a great game last night, although it was against the Nets, who we all know that the Nets have the most opt-out players in the most key positions. So the Nets are barely holding on. But if Robert Williams he had an 18-point game yesterday. If he can continue, maybe have a good game in the future, then that would really help. So for that 8 seed battle, how if you're within 4 games and you're the 9 seed, you get a playing game for that 8 seed. I'm not too sure that the Grizzlies can hold on to that seed. They're 1 game ahead of Portland, but I mean, Portland's just on fire.
Especially with Dame.
Yep.
Dame is going back to all-star, just taking whatever shots he wants and making them.
Yep.
It's exciting to see Dame play because even though he doesn't have the best supporting cast around him, he's showing up. He's playing like the all-star that people expected him to, that people want him to the point that I see them rising at least to 8.
I think a key component in that Portland team is they need Jusuf Nurkic to stay healthy. He's been hurt a lot, but if you can keep your main rebounder healthy for a team of outside shooters, maybe grab a couple offensive rebounds, then there's no stopping that Portland team. The other young teams, we got the Kings. The Kings are doing well in the bubble, but I think they're too far behind Portland and Memphis to catch up. Yeah. The Suns are undefeated in the bubble, even beating teams like the Clippers, which was an insane game-winning shot from Devin, but can Phoenix catch up? I'm not too sure. And then the Pelicans, right now, they're about to lose to the Kings, so I'm not too sure. And you have B.I., you have Zion, you have Lonzo, but Zion's minutes are a concern. Brandon Ingram's consistency is a concern. So it's I question how far they can really go and if they can even make it to that point. So.
Yeah, and I feel like a big thing with the Pelicans are guys like J.J. Redick that still have that outside fire that they're looking for, but even Brandon Ingram taking more shots and making a few more of them. I mean, some of the games are hard to watch because everybody's hyped up Zion. Everybody wants Zion, but I understand he's hurt and he's battling with all that, but it gets to a point where you got to let the boys play.
Yep.
It seems like they've been babying Zion because even in the closing minutes of the game a couple nights ago,
they didn't put him in.
Didn't put him in for the last 3 minutes, and it came down to a final shot.
Yep.
And Brandon Ingram almost
He almost hit that, yeah.
He almost hit it, and it's getting... Because you have guys like Brandon Ingram that are one of the most improved guys, but...
Well, the Zion being out there would have been a good distraction because you have to put a serious body on him. You put a serious body on him, you leave open, Hart, Redick, Ingram. So, having Zion out there as a distraction definitely would have been key. I mean, he doesn't even have to do much. If he's out there, they're going to cover him. So, I think they definitely should have put him in for that situation. All right, so for the Grizzlies and Ja Morant, and they lost their co-star for Ja. I mean, Ja's obviously the main stud, but I don't know if they can compete with Portland at the level Portland's going. I don't even know if they can compete with the Suns at the level the Suns are competing. But it's going to come down to that Portland Memphis matchup, or maybe not even, because I'm not even sure if Memphis can hold on.
I guess we'll just have to see about all of the 8 seed and stuff like that, but moving on to NFL predictions, starting out with a Super Bowl matchup. I don't see Lamar being as effective this year because I feel like even coming down the stretch towards the end of last year and in the playoff games, it seemed like teams were really getting to the point of game planning around Lamar and slowing him down, but I don't see teams like the Chiefs slowing down at all. But even with Jamal Adams going to the Seahawks, I think 49ers Seahawks will be the NFC Championship because the Seahawks have just been, they've had guys like DK Metcalf that they're young but they're getting so much better, and with Jamal Adams being able to anchor down the defense a little bit more, even with an aging and soon to be retiring Bobby Wags, I still like the Seahawks being able to go deep with their already playoff experience and guys like Russell Wilson being able to show out, because I think he was ranked, number 2 in the NFL 100 over Patrick Mahomes, just behind Lamar. And while those ratings, some of them were a little bit questionable.
Yeah.
If we can see the same kind of Russell Wilson we saw last year, I think the Seahawks will be dangerous.
I agree. I think the Seahawks will be dangerous, but honestly, I think, it's hard for me to like the Niners now with the loss of DeForest Buckner and Emmanuel Sanders. They really lost their deep offensive threat that they didn't really, they called on a couple times, but Jimmy's deep ball, he's more of a game manager, more of a field general. Mm-hmm. So I think I agree with you that the Seahawks will be there. I'm not sure about the Niners. I like their defense. It's still amazing. I think it's still the best defense in the league. But that loss of DeForest Buckner, I think they replace him with Blacklock. Yeah. But it's just DeForest Buckner is he's something else. So I think that my NFC Championship matchup, I think it's gonna be Brady and Tampa Bay versus Seahawks, and
that's that Patriot fan coming out.
Yeah, of course, but I mean, how can you not like that Tampa Bay offense? I think they have the best receiving core in the league. You got Mike Evans, Godwin, Gronk, O.J. Howard, now you have Shady McCoy in the backfield. Of course, you have the GOAT back there behind center. You got Tristan Wirfs to fill up that offensive line, and part of the reason that the Bucs struggled so much was because of Jameis, and he had 6 pick sixes, 30 interceptions.
Yeah.
That's insane. And to think about how good the Bucs defense was, especially coming down the stretch, the Bucs had one of the best defenses with the worst starting field position. And the worst starting field position, of course, coming from Jameis's 30 picks. So if you give that defense at least decent starting field position, I think that the defense will hold up, and I think that the offense will shine with a great quarterback in Tom Brady. Of course, you don't have to worry about the Saints, but the Saints in the playoffs just seem to, kind of fizzle out a little bit. Teams start to get them, and it seems like the nerves get the best of some of their high-end players. So I'm not too sure about the Saints. I think it's going to be a Bucs-Seahawks matchup. And touching on the reasons that you were talking about the Seahawks, I think the Seahawks will have an insane season. I wouldn't be surprised if Russell Wilson ends up winning the MVP this year. He's, I don't think he never had an MVP vote in his career, which is insane with how great in the Hall of Fame career that Russell Wilson's had. I think that this will be Russell Wilson's great year. And then for the AFC, I'm not gonna completely give up on Lamar, although I don't think Lamar will have as great of a season. I don't think he'll be in that MVP frontrunner place like he was last time. But I think he'll still have a decent season. That team around him is fantastic. I know that Brown's been working out a lot to try to get better for the team. And if he's able to become a dominant number one receiver in your offense, I don't see how there's a reason that your team can't go far. I think that the Chiefs are definitely the team to beat. They've, Patrick Mahomes now has that contract. Everyone's been saying, no one with that level of contract has been able to get there to the Super Bowl. And I think that's incredibly dumb for such a great quarterback. I think Patrick Mahomes' abilities with his arm, with his brain, are just going to be able to guide this team to, I think, another AFC championship win. Who will they beat? I'm not too sure. I mean, I think I could see the Ravens being there. I don't think Tennessee's going to make it again. I don't think Houston's going to go all that far. I think they'll make it to the playoffs. I just don't see them going all that far. I mean, they replaced DeAndre Hopkins with who? Brandon Cooks. I mean, I like Brandon Cooks, but he's no DeAndre Hopkins. So I think the Chiefs will play the Bucs in Tampa. That's my Super Bowl prediction. I'm not saying who would win that because that's tough. For me, part of me wants to say Patrick just because of how great he is, but another part of me wants to say Brady just because of that complete. Those teams both have complete rosters. Mm-hmm. I think that would be just, an arms race in that game. So moving on, we're going to talk about the Patriots opt-outs. The Patriots, our favorite football team, has had a bunch of opt-outs. We've had Brandon Bolden, Marcus Cannon, Patrick Chung, Dante Hightower, Marquise Lee, Najee Toran, Danny Vital, and Matt Lacrosse all opt out. Now, I'm not too worried about some of those players, but I'm worried about Marcus Cannon, the right tackle. That's a big opt-out. Of course, Patrick Chung, Dante Hightower. I mean, I don't know how you can have the same level of defense without those guys. And that's not even talking about the guys that they already lost in free agency, whether it's Kyle Van Noy or Jamie Collins. They already lost so many guys on defense to lose even more of their leaders. And there's still a chance that the McCourty twins. I mean, I know that the opt-out date is, was it today?
Thursday.
Thursday.
So today,
So today, yeah. So there's still a chance that they opt out. And if the McCourty twins opt out, then...
That's the whole defense.
Then it's tank season. I don't know if the Patriots can compete at... I don't even know if they can go 500 if they lose all these guys, not have a court... Like, I like Cam, but without any wide receivers, with an older Julian Edelman... rookie tight ends, second year N'Keal Harry, an older Mohamed Sanu. I don't think that the Patriots can continue.
No. Even with the Patriots offensive line, because last year with Brady, although he did have serious declines in efficiency because of having Julian Edelman to throw to.
Broken hand Julian Edelman.
Yeah. Their offensive line scares me, especially with how much Tom Brady was pressured last year, because we've seen Tom Brady back in the pocket for so long, having that pressure on him. I mean, it seriously took away from his game. He had a lot more incompletions because of pressure alone.
Well, part of that was that David Andrews, the starting center, had a season like ending injury. I forget exactly what it was. I know it was a medical concern. They were worried he was never going to be able to play again. So hopefully he's still in some football shape. The other problem with their offensive line is Joe Tooney. Joe Tooney, they just re-signed. He's a great guard. But I think there have been a lot of talks on the networks on if the Patriots can actually hold on to Joe Tooney, if his contract is worthwhile. If you get rid of Joe Tooney and already lose Marcus Cannon, then the entire offense is done too. So honestly, this team could be competing for a top 5 pick in the draft, which is crazy to think with the Patriots' success over this, century. But I think going for one of the younger quarterbacks, and I get Cam Newton's there, and I want Cam Newton to succeed. I want him to have, I want to be proven wrong. I want the Patriots to, make the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl if they can. I want Cam to win MVP, but the reality is that their team around Cam and around, Julian Edelman, it isn't much. So I think that the Patriots will be looking to get a Trevor Lawrence, a Justin Fields. And honestly, it might not be the worst idea to hold on to Cam and have Cam mentor Fields for a year because they both have big arms and that mobile style about them. So I think maybe holding on to Cam to mentor him because you already have Cam on such a low contract anyways.
Mm-hmm. Especially with Cam's work ethic. Like, seeing him whenever he was a free agent, seeing the workouts that he did, and even him showing off in a couple of just like backyard practices. I like that kind of work ethic, and being able to bring a rookie up in the NFL behind someone with that level of work ethic, I just see that making that rookie bounce up so much quicker. But there is a big concern with rookies without being able to have this preseason.
Yeah. I think it's going to be really interesting. OTA is starting up. I don't know if you follow the Bengals on IG, but Joe Burrow's been getting out there working out, which is great. But without a preseason, it gets me a little concerned for the rookies. Like, I didn't think Herbert was going to start over Tyrod Taylor to start with. I think they're just going to give him a year to learn, and Tyrod Taylor is a capable starter. He's been proven for years. Even when teams are, supposed to be losing games, Tyrod's going to try to will the team around him to a couple wins. I think without, the preseason has always been, questionable to start with. Mm-hmm. Players not wanting to play, players not playing their best. But it's still an opportunity for those rookies to learn the playbook, to understand what's around them. So, I think, the pure athletes like Isaiah Simmons will still be able to go. CeeDee Lamb will still be able to go. But I don't think, without a preseason, I'm not sure if Tua will touch the field this year. Because Tua could, if he's able to show, what he has in practice, but with his injury history and trying to learn new offense, and I think, Ryan Fitzpatrick's he's a good enough of a starter to keep the job going for a little bit, because they're no longer in rebuild mode, they're in build-up mode now. So, if you can get a middle of the first-round pick, you can probably get a good player to fill one of those gap spots you have. Mm-hmm. I just think it's about seeing where everyone goes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting just to see the entire AFC South Conference, because we have the bottom teams like the Jets and the Dolphins, with the Jets just showing no sign of life anymore. It seems like Sam Darnold has an excuse to be out every other week. Le'Veon Bell underperforming, which honestly, as expected.
It is, and part of that is their offensive line is so lackluster. They're expected to, I'm glad that they went with offensive line. Didn't they pick up Mekhi Becton?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so, and that's, but Mekhi Becton's a raw prospect. He has the size, has the athleticism to be a good tackle in the league. It's just his skills still need to get. He needs to get molded a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So, and that's another thing. Without preseason, he's not going to get to see these grown men defenders running at him and trying to get around him. He's going to have to pick that up in the year, and that might be tough, especially if the Bills' defensive line with Ed Oliver just going at him. So, it'll be interesting.
It's hard to say as a Patriots fan, but I like the Bills to win the division this year.
I do too. I think I agree with you.
Especially bringing in Stephon Diggs to have a deep threat for Josh Allen with his big arm. He overthrew guys so much, but if he can get a little more accuracy, especially over this offseason. It'll be interesting to see him play with Stephon Diggs. And, their defense is already rebuilding and already doing well with guys like Tre'Davious White because he's all pro.
Yep.
Cornerback. It'll be hard to see the Bills not win the conference.
Well, I think the Bills-Patriots game should be really interesting because if right now Patrick Chung opted out, but you still have your corners and you still have the McCourty at safety. Unless the McCourties opt out, then I think they're completely done. But you still have Stephon Diggs. You still have, or not Stephon Diggs. You have Stephon Gilmore, the best cornerback in football. You still have Jason McCourty, Devin McCourty. I think that those corners will be able to shut down Buffalo's wide receivers. So for Buffalo, I think against New England, it'll be the run game and fighting in the interior, which I think they would win. But I think those games might be closer than people anticipate. I do think that the Bills will completely run over the entire AFC East. I don't think there's a question that the Bills will win that division. As much as I want to believe in Bill Belichick to harness whatever guys he has, whatever Walmart wide receivers he's able to get, but I don't see it happening. I think the Bills are going to win the division. Yeah. All right. So now we're moving on to the final major topic, which is Zion's health. So Zion, he's been on fire in the bubble, but I'm still worried about his injuries. I've been worried because he's been injured in high school. He's been injured at Duke. He got injured in the summer league, and there's been a focus on this doctor on YouTube. His name is Brian Stutter, and he posted a video discussing the deterioration of Zion and how he's not going to have a 15-year career. I don't even know if he'll have a 10-year career. I love his just raw strength. I love his just fearlessness when he goes in there. But I think the one thing that's going to stop Zion is Zion. He needs to lose weight. He needs to get some athleticism. Just some speed. He needs his bones. I don't think they can hold up with the body style and the play style that he has.
Going back and watching even his highlights at Duke, you see this explosive possible NBA legend.
Tearing through shoes.
Tearing through shoes. And even a couple of his G League highlights with guys going up for rebounds and him just ripping them away from him like an animal. But we watch games now, and it seems like his explosiveness is almost gone because of his lack of conditioning.
Well, I think another part of that is I know that they are trying to make him play more careful, but if you're going to make him play careful his whole career, Zion will never be the Zion at his peak. I fear that Zion's peak would only be able to last like 2 years maybe, because if Zion plays with his current condition at his peak performance, Zion would only be able to play 1 year maybe, because I don't know if Zion, like I said, maybe Zion proves me wrong, he loses a bunch of weight, he gets in just absolute just basketball god, but if Zion plays at his current level, there's no way that Zion can play 82 games. No way. That's not possible.
I mean, I don't want to say it, but if Zion goes down the track that he's currently on, it'll be hard not to call him a bust.
Yep.
Because yes, he puts out the numbers, and yes, some of his games are explosive and fun to watch, but there are so many other games where he's not even playing, or it's just not the same Zion that we've seen. It's like a completely different player. While he has the long-range alley-oops from Lonzo, he also has plays where he's just standing around or doesn't hustle back on defense on games that if it was a Duke game, we'd see an entirely different person.
Yep.
We'd see the number 1 overall pick. We'd see the animal Zion that the media has portrayed, but I'm afraid that...
Well, another problem with that is, like you were talking about in college, is Zion was going against college-level defenders.
True.
In the NBA, you have to go against Giannis. You even have to, like, the LaMarcus Aldridge, just a really thick dude who's going to be able to stop you. Yeah. You got Jokic. You got AD. I feel like even Draymond would give him problems because Draymond's got clamps.
He's physical, too.
So if if Zion's able to get in shape and play, he could be like better Charles Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be insane. That's NBA legend. That's Hall of Famer. That's potential NBA champion. But if he doesn't get in shape, he's gonna end up being Greg Oden. So it'll be interesting to see how his career turns out. It'll be interesting to see how Zion adjusts his body and his game to prolong his career and be able to get as much bank as he can.
All right, so today's questions for tomorrow. What's most likely to occur? Lamar back-to-back MVP or Chiefs back-to-back champions?
I think there's no question. It has to be the Chiefs back-to-back champions. I mean, you look at that team around them, they didn't lose much at all. They lost what? LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy's good. And I think they lost, who'd they lose? One of their players opted out, and then Damian Williams, isn't he out for the year? But you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the running back from LSU, is a good, receiving back, so that'll help Patrick. You also have Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, you got Travis, and then and you got that defense that stayed all together. I think that the Chiefs they're definitely more likely to win a back-to-back, and especially with another year for teams to adjust to Lamar, to watch his film. Mm-hmm. I just think the Chiefs back-to-back championships more likely.
I definitely have to agree with you. I mean, you can call me a Lamar hater, but I don't see him being the same Lamar as last year. I mean, his first year, of course, the Ravens offense was still built around Joe Flacco, and they still had that kind of scheme, but moving into last year's team, I just don't see him being able to run around guys the same or just have the same kind of games because defensive have the film now.
Yep.
They've seen Lamar. They see what they have to do to change him. And, I mean, I don't see how they get worse.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, second question. Can LeBron get the Lake Show going in L.A.?
I would see tonight, but he's sitting out for tonight.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, debatable. Because LeBron and AD have been able to mesh way better than I expected.
Yep.
Because we've seen LeBron being that get out of my way, everybody clear the paint for me. And they haven't been doing that as much with AD, but they've still seen so much success with that duo. But I think that it'll be hard for the Lakers to rise up to that challenge without a good perimeter defense or without perimeter shooting at all.
Yep, I totally agree. I think that they need Danny Green to really be that third guy, which at the beginning of the year, people were calling for Kuzma to be that third guy, but Kuzma, no way. So I think that if Danny Green can get going, then maybe you have a shot. But that loss of Avery Bradley, the loss of Rajon Rondo is it's gonna hurt. They're definitely gonna miss those guys.
It leaves Caruso, and while it's fun to get on the hype train of Caruso, you can only support him for so long.
Yeah, his game's not gonna match the expectations that fans will be wanting.
All right, for our third question, will the Tampa Bay experiment work?
I believe so. I don't think that, being the GOAT that he is with his work ethic, I think with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, like Rob Gronkowski, O.J. Howard, LaShawn McCoy, I think that it will definitely work. Bruce Arians is a great coach. He's going to be able to adapt well with the quarterback situation no matter what it is. So I think that I honestly see Tampa Bay going to the Super Bowl. I don't know if a team was going to be able to stop their offense. I mean, who has the corners to match up against those guys? I don't think there's anybody.
I don't know anybody, yeah.
So, I mean, maybe the 49ers give them some trouble. Maybe the Seahawks give them some trouble. There are great teams. It's the NFL. You never really know what's going to happen week to week. But I think that Tom Brady's going to have to prove something because last season was atrocious. And I think he wants to prove that was just the team around him and that he's still capable of performing at that GOAT level. I mean, sleeper MVP Tom Brady right there. That's what I'm.
That's a hot take.
Oh yeah, but I think it's not impossible. All right, for the fourth question, is Middleton a reliable 2 for Giannis?
stats say one thing, games say another.
Yeah.
I think stats-wise, Middleton looks like he is the number 2. He looks like that guy. But in my opinion, with Giannis, while he is that athletic finisher, I feel like they have to have somebody on the perimeter. I feel like if they had even if they had somebody like Clay just sitting out on the perimeter, that would be a scary team. But it'll be hard for Middleton to be that number 2 because of how much of his game is mid-range. Where in the NBA now, there's so much of the small ball teams like the Rockets that are able to dominate just from the 3-point line.
Well, that's my fear with Middleton. Middleton is inconsistent, and in a 7-game format, you have to be on all the time. You can't just win a championship with one guy in this league. Mm-hmm. In the NBA, you need stars, plural. You need a 1, a 2, a 3, and sometimes even a decent 4. Yeah. So just having Giannis, I don't think you can get the job done. I think even a team like the Heat would be able to shut them down. So you need Middleton to be hot, and you need Middleton to be consistent. And unfortunately, he's been up and down a lot this year. And if he is the reason that Giannis doesn't make the team, doesn't win the championship, I think Giannis should consider leaving in free agency this offseason. Well, I mean, what else are they going to do? I mean, they've already spent so much money. I think if there's no chance at improving, I mean, who's a free agent who would go out and play in Milwaukee? I mean, I can't name you one good free agent who would go out there. I mean, Giannis has options because he's going to have New York going after him. He's going to have Golden State going after him. Ooh. Can you imagine that team? Steph, Clay, Giannis.
Golden State.
Ooh. That'd be a great squad. But I think Giannis has got to seriously consider either talking to the front office to make some moves, make a trade, get something going. But if they can't, I think Giannis has got to consider pulling the plug on the Milwaukee experiment.
Yeah. And to finish our show, we had to give a little bit of love to Cincy. Rumble or bungle with Burrow?
I'm definitely a rumble with Burrow. I think with the greatest statistical season in college football history, there are all these haters saying that Burrow's not going to be able to get it done. But, I mean, look at the weapons that Burrow has around him. And I think this is what a lot of the guys on the national stage are not talking about. Sure, they don't have a great tight end, but you still have Tyler Boyd, A.J. Green, John Ross is a good slot, and you have T. Higgins. Also, you have Joe Mixon, one of the most dominant backs in football.
Oh, yeah.
And, this year they're getting Jonah Williams, which that was their left tackle that they invested in the year before Burrow. And then you had Mike Brown pull the shocker move of the offseason by spending $126 million on free agents like DJ Redder, Von Bell, Alexander, Trey Waynes. So, with all this money that they put into the team, all these investments that they've made in their young guys, I'm hoping that they can pay off. And I think that if anyone can lead this team, I think Burrow and his fire can do it. Because there are stories about Burrow at LSU. When he came in, people were like, you're just some transfer. You transfer from OSU. They didn't really know. But Burrow, he took control. He did what the guys wanted. He meshed well with the group that was around him, and he was really able to put that squad together with, of course, Ed Orgeron. He's a great coach. So it really depends on how Zach Taylor is going to be able to make that offense flow for that team. So I think it's rumble with Burrow.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there because even last year, whenever people would just be trash talking the Bengals and putting them down so much, I would always argue about their receiving core. And with the Red Rocket back there and Andy Dalton.
A BB gun.
Yeah, you'd have to call him a BB gun because he didn't have the deep ball. And guys like John Ross rely on that deep ball. Yep. And in my opinion, Burrow showed that he could do it at LSU. He's shown an arm that's scary.
Yeah, he can throw the deep ball even on the run. Like while getting pursued, he can still launch it downfield. And I think, part of me that's confident, and not a lot of people are confident in John Ross. But I look at John Ross against the Seahawks in Week 1 last year. He had 2 touchdowns on deep balls. Mm-hmm. If you can get Joe Burrow to throw a consistent deep ball at the NFL level, then I think John Ross will explode. I think Tyler Boyd, A.J. Green, he's just a physical guy. He's going to be able to outmuscle a lot of guys. So if you can keep Green healthy, you can get those guys. I I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals can get that extra wild card spot. As crazy as that might sound in that tough defense, in that tough defensive AFC North, I think it's a possibility.
It's going to be hard for them with their division because they have the Steelers, who have a top 5 defense in the NFL, which a lot of people sleep on. And then you have teams like the Ravens. Even with the Ravens getting Calais Campbell, that defense is scary.
Oh, man, I'm more scared about Cleveland, though. You got Myles Garrett, the assassin out there whacking people with helmets. And, of course, I got to show some love. Larry! Yeah, man. I'm saying Larry Ogunjobi, sneak, watch. He's gonna destroy the season.
Even just seeing his off-season stuff, he's lost some weight and he has put on some muscle.
Larry's ready. I'm so excited for Larry Ogunjobi to ball out. He's one of my favorite players in the league. All right, well, it's been a good first episode of the podcast, 5157 Sports. Hope you come back, listen to podcast episode 2. We got an exciting day for NBA action. Some more headlines soon.
Any topics or even any guests you guys might want to see, put them in the comments, and we'll do our best because we're looking to have, at least with our St. X ties, guys like
Coach T. Shout out to Coach.
Shout out to Coach T, strength and conditioning coach, best in Ohio. But we could get other guys on. We could get Luke Kuechly on.
Hopefully, if we can push it.
Hopefully.
Oh, man. Hey, shout out to Patrick Galligan. Today's his 18th birthday. Hey, go Irish. All right.
Kill it up there in Notre Dame.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening.